He is one of our foremost authors whose vision and style has produced a distinct body of work that includes The Sweet Hereafter and his last feature at TIFF 2009, Chloe. Regardless of medium, his work has helped shape and define the landscape of contemporary Canadian cinema through an unfailing commitment to innovation and the moving image. It's my great pleasure to welcome Atome Goyen.
Merci, Carole. So many things to say. Really, this is such an auspicious occasion. I've seen all the features, and they're really extraordinary. They're really amazing. I was on a jury a few months ago at Tribeca in New York for Best First Feature, and really, all of these films could have been in that selection. And I think that what I'm amazed by sometimes with the festival world is just it is about subjectivity and taste and what people feel when they see a film at a certain time. And there's so much preparation on the part of all of these brilliant filmmakers who have spent so much time with their subject matter, with their crews in a very private way, trying to make these expressions of their own sensibility, and then they give it to the world, and they give it to programmers, and wait and get these responses. And I really was at the other end of this, like only 26 years ago, when I had my first feature here in Toronto, and it was the first time I'd had a film at a festival. It was the result of years of going to the festival. We were talking about this and watching films and dreaming that one day I would show a film in front of other people, that I would have a Q&A, that I would be able to have a dialogue. And I was fortunate in retrospect that my first feature was not a huge success. It was programmed. It had a decent screening. I remember distinctly when it was released, the Globe and Mail, which didn't like the film, said, "Well, we gave it a review at TIFF. Why would we review it again?" So it was a quiet introduction, and in a way that was fortunate because it allowed the career to build without a lot of noise. And so when people say, I meet people and they go, "We saw your first feature, Exotica." Well, that was actually number 6. And, there were a lot of other films. And through that whole process of building that career towards Exotica, one of the most important relationships I had was with the Festivals Bureau at Telefilm. And the individuals there, like Jean Lefebvre and Pauline Kiek, and these were very important relationships I had because they shepherded me. They were showing me and talking about which festivals, and when I didn't get in, they were there to share the disappointment, and it was really a very close relationship, and it was something that I really treasured, and it was very valuable in building up the career. And I think you're all here with your first films, and they're extraordinary. They're way stronger than my first feature, I can tell you. But I think what's amazing is to think about it in terms of this career that you have ahead of you, and how the Festivals Bureau and how Telefilm is here to support you, because you are so valuable to us culturally as young artists. You are expressing the soul of this country, and I think Telefilm has been so instrumental in that, not only just through supporting filmmakers, but through initiatives, of course, like Real Canada, where we're trying to introduce our Canadian films to high school students and being able to give them a sense of the tradition of cinema in this country. And it's an amazing tradition, and you're all part of it now. And you're at the beginning of this process, and the thing I urge you to do, and I won't go into advice because I can go on forever with advice, but it's just to think about it. Sometimes when you're in a large festival like this, you can feel like, well, what is your place? Like, where do you fit in? And really what you're here to do, I think, is to meet other filmmakers, to watch other films, to try and form relationships with programmers, and even if they don't like your film sometimes, and I know that feeling definitely, but it's to follow through, and talk to them, and so that they'll be aware of your work, and we'll be watching your next film, and to be aware of the fact that it is a series of building steps, and to know that not only is the festival this particular festival here to support that, but Telefilm is instrumental in this process in terms of being able not only to support your work, but to support you through this festival system. I think that I'd really like to use this opportunity to really say that these films, as I said, are cultural heritage. You know, that cinema is the art form that more than any other, I think, defines who we are collectively and allows us to pass and transmit our own sense of identity to others, both here at home and internationally. I've been very privileged to be a part of that world. It was something I dreamt of, I continue to dream of, and I know that all these filmmakers are also part of this community now. So I welcome you to the community. I really congratulate Telefilm for having this initiative and being able to focus on the notion of auteur filmmaking. I think that, you know, there was a period when we became very, very obsessed with where we were in terms of box office and all of these very temporal sort of signifiers, which are important, but ultimately it's what we leave behind and how we build a culture. And I want to applaud you for taking this initiative, Madame. Bravo.
Thank you very much, Adam, for your generosity. This event was the idea originated from another event we did a couple years ago in Cannes, where Adam was also give time generously with Noah Pink and Xavier Dolan. So thank you very, very much. So we will begin our session with a moderator, Tom McSorley, who is the Executive Director of the Canadian Film Institute. Tom is also a well-known film critic and scholar who has written numerous books, including one dedicated to our previous guest at home, and his film, The Adjuster. Please welcome Tom McSorley.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Atom. Welcome, everyone. I think we should find out who these people are. I've been talking about them now, and they're sitting there very patiently. I just want to thank Telefilm again for its vision in creating these kinds of discussions. I think this is content-driven and creatively important that we discuss film in, as Atom said, outside of the ledger. There's more than one ledger. So we're going to talk about creation here today. So let me introduce our first-time filmmakers to you. Over on the to my far right, please welcome Yona Lewis. And beside him, his directorial partner, Calvin Thomas from Amy George. Sitting beside them, the director of Edwin Boyd. Please welcome Nathan Morlando. Nathan. The director of The Odds is sitting beside Nathan, Simon Davidson. The director of Marécage Wetlands, Guy Edouin. The writer-director of Nuit Numéro 1, Anne Aymon. And the director of Romeo 11, Ivan Grobovich. Here. The future's so bright, you got to wear shades. I also like to, another film in Canada First is a first feature documentary, and we have the filmmakers here sitting with us in the front row. Please welcome Melanie Shatsky and Brian Cassidy from Patron Saints. So the format is as follows. We'll have a kind of discussion with the filmmakers. We'll talk to themselves and to you for 15 or 20 minutes. Then we'll open it up for questions for a little while after that. And I'd like to, again, plug the next panel, which is on Monday, Far Away, So Close, New Canadian Stories. So please come back for that one on Monday. So to get started, let's talk about arrivals before we talk about departures, because you've arrived here. And I'd just like to know, maybe we could start at the end with you, Yona and Calvin, to talk about and move it down. I suppose the creative genesis, how you came to be sitting on this stage at TIFF. And I know some of you started in making shorts, some of you haven't. So tell us a bit in each case about how you've arrived with your first feature film.
Right. For us, we're a few years out of film school, and we decided right out of school to just devote our time to writing and writing feature screenplays and try to figure out what kind of films we wanted to make and just how to write something that big. And about 2 years out of school, we started to get the itch of wanting to be back in production, because when you're in school, you're jumping from project to project and you're working on other people's films. So we actually hadn't been on a film set for a really long time, and so we just got this itch to make a film. And so we wrote Amy George very, very quickly. We tried to make something that was very, very small, something that was very, very doable, something that we could shoot in our backyard, which we did. And that's how Amy George came about. It took about 1.5 years for us to finish it, but we got back on film set. So
great. You have anything to add, Johan?
Yeah. Kelvin and I are co-directors and co-writers and co-producers and co-editors and co-cinematographers. But as writers, and we come from different backgrounds and different experiences, and so sometimes it's difficult for us to find subject matter that overlaps. And so Amy George was, I guess, the first script where we eventually came across something that we could both speak to, and that ended up being male adolescence, because we both experienced that.
And recently, I might add.
So that's where the story came from, was something that we were both, that was personal for both of us.
Okay. Nathan, how about you, in your case?
Oh, it is on. Okay. I grew up thinking about Edmund Boyd a lot. I would hear about his story a lot around the table when my uncles would get together. And when I was in university, a professor friend of mine knew someone who knew someone who knew Eddie Boyd. And I was very intrigued by his character, and I wanted to explore that. So I had the good fortune of reaching out to him, and he took my call. And over many years, he and I started a very intimate phone relationship that grew and grew. And I wish it was that easy, but that was in 1995.
Wow.
So the process to get here has taken a very long time. And I owe it to my producer here, who's sitting in the front row, who really made the impossible happen. And the challenges we had was that it was a period film. So the budget was a challenge, particularly for a first feature. So that took a lot of tenacity on Allison's part, and we're very grateful for Telefilm's support for trusting us. And I come from an academic background,
right.
And I think that's the journey in a nutshell.
Okay, great. Simon?
How did I end up here?
Something like that.
I wrote and directed 3 short films several years ago, and then I decided, it's time to make a feature. And I knew kind of in the back of my mind I wanted to do a crimey type film about probably a young person. And literally I was Googling one day, and I probably typed in like high school crime, and it came back. Gambling ring, Singapore. And so I found this article about this gambling ring set up in a Singapore high school that this student kind of figured out with his friends, and they bet on NBA games. And next thing you know, his friends were owing him tons of money, like $17,000. And he was going to the parents' house saying, your son owes me $17,000 and I'd like it, please. And I said, this is weird. So I started really, I don't know, your brain goes into something. And so I really started searching and researching this. And I found out it really happens more often than you would think. So I decided that was the setting for my story.
But you didn't want to make a documentary about it. You wanted to make a fiction.
Yeah, I kind of had this idea that I wanted, I wanted to tell a story about a young person at a crossroads in his life, and that was kind of the story I wanted to tell, and this thing just kind of took over. I don't know who wrote the article, and I can't pay them.
They're waiting outside, actually. Guy.
Okay, for me, Westland, it's a part of a big project I started maybe around 8 years ago with 3 short films I shot on my parents' farm. The trilogy was called Les Affluents, and I made those short films like around 2 years, and every 2 years, and I got this idea that each short was like a laboratory. I tried to experiment in each short, like narrative way, on the formal, I'll shoot with each camera, technical stuff, and experiment in every short. And I got this idea that all those short was ending with something bigger. So that was the feature. And I get this, my father had an accident like 8 years ago. And that was the point that I really want to build the feature around. So I showed the film on my parents' farm last summer, and 1 year later I'm here and that's it.
Because it's a common thing that people start out making shorts and then they want to tell the story in a more developed way, so you can stitch your short ideas into longer formats.
No, it's not that I made short film to make a feature after. It was just part of the big project. It was the trilogy, then the feature, and maybe something new after that. But we'll see.
Anne.
I did 7 short films before, so a lot. I started, in fact, I had a kind of difficult 2 years in my life. I was like 26 years old, and I just woke up in the morning and realized I was living like 14 years old, like still a teenager, and was just, wow, what happened these 2 past years? And I was looking at my friends. It was the same. They were 30, but still really lost in a way. I just wrote a film for them, and I was thinking we're probably not the only one like that. So I don't know. I didn't plan to make feature film. Like I was not thinking before I'm 30 I need to do feature film. It was just I started to write, and it was long. So yeah.
Ivan.
Hello. I'm just going to do this first. So I directed 3 short films a couple of years ago, and this film actually started out as a short film script. It was 15 pages, then 30 pages, then 60 pages, and I was like, oh, this is not a short film anymore. And my wife and future co-screenwriter was away on vacation, and she came back and read it and said, like, this is shit. Let's rewrite it. And this is how I'm here. She rewrote it with me, and it's much better now.
And if you can speak to about the challenges of getting, once you've started this enterprise, and you talked about, Nathan, taking all these years to get the machinery, cranking into some sort of motion. What are the main challenges of your particular film approach that you find to get this feature-length thing finished? Did you have any kind of special problems that you encountered, or did you have to stop? And I'm just thinking in terms of this, your films are all so different in terms of the production style and even the aesthetic style. What were the challenges that you faced? We're going to make this first feature, and that's that. If there's any, maybe you didn't have any challenges, I don't know. But anybody can just join in on that one.
I guess for us at least, we wrote the script with the resources we had at hand, or at least what we thought we would have at hand. So we wrote it in the neighborhood that we lived in the backyards with the parks, and all the houses we knew or thought we had access to. So we wrote it thinking that it would be somewhat easy. and then immediately realized that we'd written a larger script with an insane amount of young teenagers climbing trees and doing all sorts of crazy stuff that was probably really stupid. And we had about 2 months of pre-production, which everyone told us was stupid as well, and again, probably was. But for us at least, as Calvin mentioned, sort of it was to sort of satisfy an itch, and so we set ourselves a series of goals, and in the end, luckily, somehow met them. So we wrote it in February. We had March and April pre-production, and then we were wrapped by mid-June. So it all happened really, really quickly, which I think was the only way it was going to work for us. And I think it's amazing that you can spend like 15 years on one thing. I think it just seems so loyal or something, in a way in which, just for us at least, we'd write a script, and then 2 weeks later we'd be sick of it. And so, I mean, eventually we came across the script for us that we were able to stick to for a while, but sticking to it for 15 years, I think, is incredibly impressive.
Yeah, well, that's also obsessive, obsessive neurotic. I did write some other screenplays in the interim that went certain directions, got financed, and financing collapsed, and things like that. But this was the very first script I ever wrote, so it felt really appropriate that it be the first film that I direct. The challenges we had right from the very beginning were narrative challenges, for sure. Like the scope of the story was so large, there were so many characters that we knew, and if I was going to direct this, that it had to be a much more of an internal psychological study of Edwin Boyd and not a kind of exploration of the larger world of Toronto, because we knew we wouldn't have that opportunity or the funds to be able to pull that off. And we knew we'd have an immense number of challenges, and every time they arose, our approach was, well, if we don't freak out, right, it's going to benefit the project and the vision of the film, and we had to apply that all the way through. Being a first film, a large first film, I knew I had to surround myself with an incredibly talented crew, and we had the excellent fortune of finding an amazing crew who were so incredibly committed. And it was a very tough winter shoot, very short schedule, so we were moving very fast, but the film benefited immensely from having an amazing crew and cast. Yeah, it was an incredible challenge, but fantastic.
And it exists now.
And it exists, which is really amazing. We just approved the print last week, so it's a crazy process. We were shooting in February as well. So
can you let go now?
I can let go, I think, yeah, a little bit, and think about another project.
Right.
Now. So, and
because these things must be obsessive, and at some level you're compelled to make a film, and a feature-length film, because that's how it works, right? You want to get into a festival or become a filmmaker. You work in this format. Excuse me, in this format. So
yeah, you lose so much of the outside world. Like, it's a really isolated experience.
One of the challenges for me was just what you were talking about. We developed our film over a number of years, 3 or 4 years, and I'd write a draft. I'd be just super passionate about it, because when you work on something, you get very excited, and so I would write a draft, and then we'd sort of send it away to get comments and notes back, and I'd hate it. Exactly like what you're saying. I'd like, this sucks, and so I'd really immediately want to work on something else, and then we get our comments and notes back, and on this film, and then I'd write a new draft and be very excited about it. So for me, one of the challenges was in doing a feature, from doing shorts. In shorts, you write the script and you shoot it. It's kind of like the way you guys did it. But in doing this feature, keeping the inspiration, kind of, that passionate inspiration that can only last so long in me. Right. Yeah. But eventually, we made it.
Any other thoughts?
Again, so when you write a a short film, you kind of write it loosely and kind of, you're not very necessarily picky about certain words and technical kind of things that are going to be written in the script. When you do a feature film, like you realize how it's a technical document. It's like everybody's going to look at every word and say, oh, red dress. Oh, so I'm a kind of guy who likes Leo Carax's kind of Lovers on the Bridge, you know, like just he wrote 12 pages. 12 pages, showed it to a producer, gave him $32 million. So you're like, sure, not bad. So and here I am with 95 pages, and all of a sudden on a whim, I want to change something. Wait a minute, you can't do that. Maybe you can, but we're going to have to change the schedule. So the big challenges for me are how do you stay naive and intuitive when you make a first film? Because I was like 30 when I made my first feature, but I had maybe 2,000 days of commercial music videos, other feature, where like as a crew member behind me. But I wanted to start making films when I was 13, and sometimes I believe my ideas when I was 13 are better than they are now. So how do you step on that set and stay naive? Because the films I like are not the ones that like at page 30 have act 1 is finished, you know, page 60, and like they're not like that. So how do you stay naive and kind of intuitive is, I think, the biggest challenge for me when I made this film. That's it.
Guy or Anne?
For me, the biggest challenge was the weather, because all the film is supposed to happening during a dry summer, right. And almost the film is shot outside. Yeah. And that was really, and we can't see rain during the film because the ending of the film is some storm happening. So that was really the biggest challenge for my first assistant, who was crying every night. And the second biggest challenge was that we were shooting on my parents' farm. So it was to go with the crew during my parents were milking the cow. And we were like around maybe only 12 people, but 12 people in a barn with 40 cows, and with cows having some trouble. And you know, we invent the shit deflector, just to no, it's true, to protect the camera, because that was it's really true. That was a great experience for everybody. It's like. But without that, the biggest challenge was the weather and the schedule, because we in the film we have a cow have to give birth. So during the summer, I've planned for the last 2 years with my parents. Okay, we shoot a film. We need some cows. Who's gonna give birth during the summer? So at the beginning of the summer, we had like 14 cows. And one Sunday, I came to see my parents and talk about the week. And she said, Guy, we have a little problem. I said, okay, what's happened last week? I didn't know, that I don't know. And she said to me, okay, we only have one cow left. And maybe she's going to have twins. And I said, oh, okay, great, twins. The actors can practice with the first one, and we shoot the second one. But and we have another scene that we were supposed to shoot on the Monday. It was the accident, a strong scene, like a big crew, a lot of technical stuff. And finally, the weather saved me, because it was supposed to rain on the Monday, so we rescheduled the accident. And the Monday, I went to see my parents in the barn. They were milking the cow, and the cow just broke water in front of me. So I ran in the house, and I called it, and the rest is on the feature.
I don't know what to say. We didn't have any animals on my film. No, in fact, it's kind of the challenge was the opposite. Like, we had 2 humans, that's it, and an apartment. So it was completely different. We had to manage. People are hard not only cow that are people are hard to manage too. So we were in the same apartment for 20 days, shooting all by night, and it was like only 2 people playing. So really hard scenes with a lot of nudity, a lot of long monologues, dialogues. So it was kind of emotional shooting. That was the hard. There were the hard things to do, and for me, I did a lot of short film, but it was my first serious film with the crew and everything. With like you were saying, you cannot change at the last moment. So it was another kind of challenge.
Well, let's talk about departures now. Then, in a sense that you've all arrived at Toronto, but some of you, in fact, most of you, your films have played or will play at international film festivals. And I wondered if those of you who have been to screenings, I know Amy George was in Brooklyn, and Melikash, of course, was in Venice just last week, I believe. Mm-hmm. And this idea of Canadian films finding audiences, of course, in Canada, which is a struggle. But, this overseas, what is your kind of reaction as a first feature filmmaker to another audience, an audience from another country? I mean, it must have been, in your case, a very dramatic evening or afternoon or wherever it was in Venice, no?
Yeah. I'm still on my little cloud since a week because a week ago I was in Venice to present the film in world premiere, and Carole was there either too, and she can tell it's true. But we were not expecting that strong reaction in Venice. It was just an honor to be there, and it's just it's just surrealistic to arrive in Venice in your private boat, and you go there to present your film. It's just in that mythic and really. I just want to say we didn't pay for the private. No, that was the festival. Yeah. But no, it was just an amazing time. It's realistic to being there. That mythic film festival. It's the oldest film festival, and it was the projection, the screening was just perfection, and it's really moving to see your film with Italian subtitle. You were in Venice Film Festival at the Critic Weeks, and we got this great ovation at the end of the screening, and we were not expecting that. So it was just like a tsunami of emotion. And it's really great to be here too, because all my short film has been screened here, so it's like coming home.
You guys were in Brooklyn for?
Yeah, we played 2 smaller film festivals earlier in the year, and we'd never been to a film festival before, so we were just really excited to have lanyards and go see other filmmakers' films and stuff like that. And our screenings went really, really well. It was really nice to have just an audience reaction. They weren't very heavy industry festivals, but the turnouts were really great. And so we played first in Madison, Wisconsin, and we were like, oh my God. So we had these little postcards, and we wanted to get people to the audience, and we got there, and we were already 85% sold out, and we couldn't believe it. So it was really nice to play for, really strong public attended festivals. So that was really nice for us. But we're doing the same here. We have postcards, and we're just trying to get as many audience members as we can into our film, and we're excited about these lanyards too.
And it's true. It's like what Atom was saying earlier about the life of this thing. Now that it exists and you've made it, where does it go, and who can you, what festival should it play at, and what is its life going to be? I was just wondering, in the case of all of you, whether technology, in terms of being able to set up websites and stream the film, whether that was is something that you're considering, because when Atom arrives with Next of Kin in 1984, you give it to a distributor, and hopefully it goes into theaters. There wasn't any of the opportunities for distribution of your own films now. Is that part of your future, or the life of these films in particular, for any of you or all of you?
If I can get anyone to download the BitTorrent of my movie, I'll be excited. Just kidding.
Permission's been granted by Simon.
No, I do. I would love to sell it on the internet. I'm not sure.
Simon?
I'm a bit more old-fashioned. You know, I think what's amazing about, first of all, dark room is obviously everybody knows here that's a very special experience. Furthermore, at a festival setting, you're with people who want to see the film, who kind of, and there's nothing that beats a 35 print. Sorry, and the internet is kind of, it's just. People see screeners now, you know. You send. I'm sorry, I'm just the negative person in the room, obviously, but I mean, you send out screeners, and the film is supposed to be seen big. It's supposed to be seen big. It's supposed to see, like, his screening was like 100 feet by 50 feet. It's like one of these gigantic kind of, like, that's my dream. It's not to be we have to make trailers, but ultimately, I'd rather see 10 people see it properly than 100,000 see it kind of small. Obviously, I'm lying. 100,000 maybe, like, but 100. But I mean, I think that's the biggest danger in the future. It's kind of, the more films get out of the theaters, the more it's going to be like music. You know, it's going to be like this trend of kind of looking for the next film. Do you see the next film on pitchforkvideo.com? It's like it's dangerous, I find. But that's just me.
Someone agrees. That's good.
You know, I personally think that stuff's going to the internet. I don't think we can stop it. I think movies are going to be broadcast on the internet. I mean, people are watching. They're going to stream it to their TVs. I mean, that's happening. I mean, that's kind of the way it is. Digital cinema, like 35 prints, are amazing. I did my shorts on 35. I just loved screening my films on 35 on the big screen. This film, we have a digital cinema projection, which is a hard drive. And I just talked to a guy. I'm working on sort of, for my day job is to work on a Hollywood movie. And I was talking to a guy today, or the other day, and he said that Technicolor and Deluxe are not screening, are not doing prints anymore. It's all DCP.
Wow. I will cry.
But what's amazing is what's this digital revolution about? It's about getting people to buy products more often. They're buying, what's the product now? It's like Apple computers or digital projectors. These digital projectors are going to have to change every 3 years, every 4 years. They're going to create a clientele for these, like, DLP projectors. So it's kind of I find it's kind of, again, it's we think that we're getting to a better product, but it's just a way of hooking us up to a thing that will have to change every 2-3 years, like everything else that's happening in our lives. So again, yes, they're going that direction, but they're going that direction not necessarily for the right reasons, is my point. You know?
Yeah, I don't know. I think, I mean, you guys can jump in, but I think that I don't disagree with you that I love watching movies on the big screen, but I just think it's the way it's happening. And I also think that, you know, artists and filmmakers will figure out how to use the internet interactively with their, like, in a way that is interesting. You know, I just think that's the way the world is, right? Change is what happens.
Again, you know, like I'm gonna say, there's a huge difference on how you watch a film in a, like, just concentrated on a big screen. There's 90% chance that you'll prefer, like, most people watch screeners or DVDs on the internet and are like, they're like, oh, that was a good film, yeah, sure. And there's a good chance that someone seeing your film in a dark room will give it a chance. Will not just after 15 minutes be like, oh yeah, dude, you want a pizza? Yeah, sure. Okay, yeah, I missed the scene. I don't know. It's like they're going to be concentrated. That I think is the most. Forget about my little kind of old-fashioned 35 kind of nostalgia. For me, it's how do you keep the audience concentrated on what's on the screen, not on what's around the screen, around the glow light that goes around. It's. I think that's the major challenge. I know I sound nostalgic, but it's keep the focus on the screen. And I think all these things that were being proposed with, I'm the first one to go see Avatar. I love that film, honestly. But it's how do you keep the focus on the screen? Because so much of the minute messages that have been, like, just kind of pushed by these auteurs over the years, be it Canadian or Italian or whatever nationality, are messages that if not, you're not, like, kind of focused on the screen, you'll miss them. And most of the films here, I think, are not huge, kind of big kind of messages. They're small, and you need attention. We're just asking for attention. And I think, anyways.
I think it's a debate that will go on and on. I think, though, we should, we're a little pressed for time, so can open it up for a couple of questions. Yeah, here?
Hi.
Hi.
I'll just energy. So it's that kind of art form. Just on my 2 cents on that conversation. I'm a filmmaker doing my first. I'm going into the second draft. Really enjoying working on the film, writing it, loving the characters, all that kind of stuff. I'm more of the mindset where I don't want to be on a huge kind of development process. And I'm wondering, because this is a Telefilm thing, presentation, and I'm not sure who would need to address this, but if you could talk about your relationship to Telefilm in terms of getting them on board. Because there was, like Adam said at the beginning, a huge push initially, or I felt like there was this kind of energy around box office and all those kinds of things. And I wondered where Telefilm is right now with character-driven pieces, smaller, quieter movies that I feel will leave a legacy around Canadian cinema. And if you could talk about that.
Well, I think the fact that all of these films are here, I think Telefilm is very supportive of small character-driven films. And I think there's an amazing group of story consultants at Telefilm right now. It's they were very helpful in our process, and they're really talented. So as soon as you can get in there to start them on, like have them read your script, give you notes. I think notes are really important, and to trust a few people. For me anyway, in the writing process, I don't give the script to 20 people. You get very confused by that. And it is about focus and just trust a few people and hear their notes, and whether you agree specifically on their notes, it's if they're raising questions, pay attention to the questions. Submit as soon as you can.
Anybody? Yeah.
I have a question for anyone. As first-time filmmakers, how did you go about finding or choosing and selecting your crew, in particular the cinematographer? You probably had a look that you were going for. Did you just meet with people that you had worked with before? Did you, look outside of your immediate circle?
Well, I feel compelled to answer that question because my cinematographer was incredible, Steve Cousins, who's a genius and incredibly committed. And it was important for me to, I didn't want to make a nostalgic film, and this is a period film. I wanted it to feel as contemporary as possible. So for me, to connect us to the past was very important to use real light, natural light, because for me, that's the space Eddie moved in. He moved in a world that looked like ours in terms of light. So Steve Cousins is a genius with natural light, and he was able to make a very beautiful film using almost no light, and it also enabled us to move very fast, which was really fantastic and necessary. So it was vitally important that it be someone like Steve, and I found the perfect cinematographer in Steve.
Anything else?
I would say if you already have friends in different crew, maybe from other projects, go with them. It's really good to have friends like family on the set, because it's hard times sometimes.
Mm-hmm. There's a Jean Renoir's great line that Hollywood makes movies with money, and we make movies with friends. I don't know.
You have to find someone who shares your vision and your taste. Like, it's really important, especially if you're moving fast, because you don't have too much time, that you trust your crew. And with Steve and I became brothers in the process. We shared the same food tastes. And that's why we trust each other so much, and that's really important. So if you're interviewing, interview someone you want to have dinner with. And that was actually, Allison and I, we had a very lengthy interview process with all of our crew. And we had to feel that we wanted to have a dinner party together. And that was a very important feeling, so.
Anybody else?
I think it's also really important to find people who challenge you. one thing I loved is having key crew and actors who take ownership of their work, and then they fight you if they think you're making the wrong move. You know what I mean? And then you're constant. I was constantly having to not justify myself, but like you try together, you find the right answer or solution to whatever problem that presents itself. So I don't necessarily think you want to have, or I don't think it's necessary to have someone who believes in everything you say and like totally wants your vision. I think it's really interesting to have people, you lead them and you kind of come together and they react with you.
Well, yeah, at the back, time for one more. Yep.
The best for the last. I've just written my very first screenplay, feature length, and I'm just wondering, what was the process you used to get your screenplays financed and produced?
In 20 words or less.
Well, it's a... Oh, please go ahead. No. Yeah. It's a... I'm sure for everyone it's a very difficult and lengthy process that involves incredible perseverance. And you gotta find people that believe in you. And because that's what you need. You need fighters on your side. So you gotta find them. And keep fighting. I mean, I'm not sure what else to say. And we're very fortunate in Canada to have Telefilm because it's a real gift. I don't think anything like Telefilm exists anymore. There agencies like that are disappearing all around the world, and it's getting tougher and tougher for filmmakers. So
I need one film, and Telefilm needs me to have produced two before I qualify. So next.
Get a producer.
Yeah.
No, seriously, get a producer, and then you can. I never made a feature film, and we had a producer, and we applied, and with kind of a lousy script, and at the beginning, and I seriously found them to be so supportive and just kind of nurturing. Like I did not expect that at all, and they just helped us chaperone us along, and I thought it was really cool.
Well, I want to thank our filmmakers, the new face of Canadian cinema. Let's give them a round of applause. Thanks also, of course, to TIFF, thanks to Telefilm Canada, and thanks to Atom Ergoyan for coming out and supporting. And please go see their films, whether I'm not sure if you want to see them on computer, but maybe you do. Thanks, everybody, for coming. It's been fun.